This piece is titled Shoreless because it references displacement and journeys and people leaving, like my family, leaving from Europe and coming to Australia under fairly extreme circumstances. And the other aspect of it is my interest in nature and the displacement of sea objects, the journey they make and our relationship to nature. I've used nature in my work for a long time, and I've come to realise that for me it is a buffer to trauma, and I think it does that to a lot of people. There's a lot of theory around what nature can do for us. Even Goethe talked about it, right from Goethe to people like Rachel Carson, and more recent theorists talk about our need to connect to the other. So post-memory discourse, or the aspect that I'm looking at, is when your life is affected by having parents or somebody close to you that have gone through very traumatic circumstances like the Holocaust or any sort of displacement, and the silences that you experience and the mixed messages you get and the inability to cope with a lot of emotions. And through the discourse you find that the people, the second generation, absorb that, and it comes out in many different ways. When I actually started reading all the discourse on post-memory trauma, it gave me permission to actually look at my background and actually not look at it as navel-gazing or me being one of many people who have experienced this. It actually gave me permission to identify with it and then to read a lot of really inspiring theory and literature and other artists' experiences, and then put that into my own work, and then kind of build on the darker aspects that I had in my work over the years. But I didn't really know what it meant or where it was going, and now I could identify it and then actually use that to speak more clearly in my work. I use wax for the resonances to the ability of wax to actually melt, become liquid and clear, and then it solidifies and becomes opaque, and I like that aspect of change in it. I became very interested in the work that Joseph Beuys did, where he used animal fats and wax to refer to trauma, and a lot of his more abject work features those, and he's done a lot of work like the Holocaust demonstration, where he uses wax to represent bodies that have been boiled down, fairly abject subject matter, but I actually use it as a way to encapsulate memories. I've used it in my work before, and in this way it's actually holding the pieces and holding the flow. I started working with wax fairly recently, and the piece I did before this also used wax, and I did a piece called Keepsakes, which was blocks that I backlit, and I just sort of buried pieces of material that were very personal to me. It began a lot of this memory work where, after my aunt died, I had a box of her photos, and in it was a piece of pressed Edelweiss, and she was the matriarch of the family, and all my family are dying quite soon to each other. And it sort of set me off wanting to honour her memory and to use this piece of precious material and keep it safe and do something with it artistically. So I did this series called Keepsakes, where I used wax. I made wax boxes and carved them out and actually set pieces, objects that were of significance to me, personal significance, like photos of my aunt in the 30s, before, while the world was still good, before the Holocaust, and the material and some urchin pieces and just things that were significant to me, and then I backlit them, and I really used the wax as a material to hold precious memories, and it had those resonances to the way other artists have used wax. But using it in a really positive way, I really wanted to make works that had a lot of love in them, and that actually, for me it was reclaiming memory. I used my daughter's hair and my partner's hair as well, and while that again made references to people like Beuys, it was really about me claiming my past, reclaiming my past, and using materials that have historically difficult meanings as my own and as something positive.